We are recording. Okay. So, greetings.
1, 2. What's up, y'all?
Assalamu alaikum. What's up?
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
What's going on, man? Konnichiwa.
And all that good stuff. So we're recording, and what's up, Sterlyn? You look like you outside.
Yeah, I'm chilling, man. It's just soaking up this sun. I'm under a tent right now, so I can get the camera looking all right. But on the top of I'm at the school. I'm on the top floor, which is like a balcony.
Okay, yeah. So for those, well, I guess no one's gonna really know. Yeah, he lives in a building and he has access. What the whole building is really him, but it's
right.
How many floors is this? Like 3 floors?
It's including the garage, I guess it's 4, but three, and 4 floors because the bathroom is the bottom floor. So
yeah, and the laundry room and all that stuff.
But it's stacked, y'all. It's not like a huge mansion or nothing like that. It's like a long, skinny building.
It's going straight up.
Them one piece Lego blocks. Yeah.
Think about the density situation in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're coming in. We came out of Golden Week.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Like I said, I feel a little bit almost guilty because this COVID period is almost like a vacation.
Man.
And
life changing.
We're gonna go in on that because we just got a real good video from my man Amaru, and the information really isn't new, but what it is, it's now documenting by scientists some of the things that we've already been talking about. So stay tuned for that. But what are we gonna get into today on this edition of Real Talk Forum? I believe it's number 8.
Right. Are we on 8 already?
Mm-hmm.
We're getting into the new chauvinism, toxic masculinity in Japan and basically the West, but for what we know, the States compared. Okay,
all right. And I think I think this might be somewhat relative to an article I wrote about I can't even remember the exact title, like the power of women. Or, women energy, female energy. I wrote on a Nippon series side of the game. So we're going to get in. Let's get into some about, maybe the differences and the similarities of what's going on. So go ahead and break it open.
All right. Chilling out here, talking, the thing that really, if you've been here for a long time, stands out is you have a lot of time away from where you're initially from. So you have a lot of time to think. You have a lot of time to kind of say what you feel and not have a lot of backlash. Japanese are very often non-argumentative, and nobody's really trying to give out their views like you would in the States. So you're able to express yourself a lot freer, right? And I always get caught up, not always, but I often get caught up, especially when I talk to Western women about how men should be or how women should be in my eyes.
Okay. Your perspective. Okay.
My perspective. And I often get, that statement was chauvinistic or that's toxic masculinity from Western women, where when I think about it, I'm like, but in Japan with women, I don't ever get that.
Okay. So wait a minute. So let's backtrack. So you're saying when you're expressing your opinion, maybe an opinion, you're talking to a Japanese woman, you see you don't get any backlash, but if you express those same sentiments to a Western woman, you're saying, did you say black woman or did you say Western woman?
Western woman, because it's definitely, I talk to more black women than I do white, but it's the same around all around the board when it comes to this kind of topic.
Okay. And you're saying that they accuse you of being, what you said, like a chauvinist or a toxic?
Yeah, or that statement is somewhat chauvinist, like better be careful when you say something like that. And I'm like, I don't need to be careful out here.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to have to.
I had to give an example, right? I would say, for example, when a woman wants to be independent, that is definitely what I feel in this generation everybody should feel. The independence is definitely the right path to take for anybody. But there's a well-defined line between a woman's independence and a man's independence. And when women come off on that I don't need no man kind of mentality, or they don't feel like they need to submit in any way to a man, they're not going to have a good relationship with a man.
Oh, okay. So you're saying, and that's kind of how the Western woman comes off. But when you pose that same kind of opinion or expression toward a Japanese woman, what do they say?
They're just, if they disagree, they'll say like, is that what you think? And that's it. But yeah, there's just this level of fire you get from Western women, which I definitely respect. But a lot of times when a woman talks like that passionately to me about how men and women should be exactly equal, in my mind, I'm thinking, and I say it to him, I'm like, that's why you ain't got no man. Or that's why even if you do have a man, if you acting like this around him, I know he ain't happy.
Yeah, and he's baited out. He's buck broken to even deal with you.
Right.
Because he thinks he has to do that, and maybe he does. I mean, I guess it's a case by case situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So what is the major difference though? What do you think? So you say there's a difference or a distinction between the Western woman and a Japanese woman?
I would say, yeah, because, well, why do most Western men come here and want to stay here? Like, why do men do a lot of things that they do? And the majority of the reason is women.
Yeah.
Women.
Okay.
Right.
And
even though a lot of men won't admit it in front of women, I can tell you that's definitely the main reason most men stay in Japan on the initial hit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because compared to other countries, it is extremely easy for a Western man to get a Japanese woman just being a nice guy.
Okay, just being a nice guy. So, in the West, they always say nice guys finish last. That's kind of a quote. All right. Okay. And I remember when I was coming over here as an adult, I remember the first, I told, one of my colleagues who was a white man that I was going to not visit Japan, but to move to Japan. At the time, he had no idea that I was of Japanese descent. And I remember him just going, I didn't know at the time, but he was ex-military. And he went somewhere in his mind and was like, oh yeah, the Japanese women, and he was looking at me to kind of chide on. I had never been to Japan as an adult. So I didn't really know what he was talking about. Now, because my relationship with the Japanese women was my mom and her friends. And then being black, any white man who talks about your mom or anything to your mom, it comes off to me as a little bit, he wasn't trying to be rude, but that's how it struck me. I'm like, wait, trying to get me to talk about, I ain't talking about no Japanese women with you. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so a little bit different. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, right? Yeah, just exactly what you just said right there, and that's why it's interesting to talk about it with you, because you have a Japanese mother, so you see the other side on feminine. It's not always just a sexual thing where I'm talking about getting with each other, but it seems like that's the main one. Okay,
and I think you mentioned the word submission.
Yeah, submission.
I think that's one of those words, if you speak or say to some Western women, that's going to be a word that can get you in trouble.
Right, they don't take it as offense. Yeah.
So let's talk about this word submission. Is it important or is it necessary for a woman to submit to her significant other? And how about the other way around? Is it important?
I was just about to say that
for a man to submit to the woman.
I'm going to say hell yeah.
Which case?
On both cases.
Okay.
But in terms of when a woman is going against it, she usually would it feels like you're arguing with me as women should be treated exactly like men should be treated on things that men have a natural advantage over. So for example, strength.
Right.
Strength. I'm like, well, don't get mad, but like, how many people watch women's basketball? What I'm saying? For a reason. And then anything when it comes to physical strength, what I'm saying? It's just a woman should feel like she needs to submit to a man who's stronger than her physically.
Yeah, I had a lady, not to cut you off, but she was getting she tried to come at me and was trying to get me to be on her side. A woman wanted to play in the NFL.
In the NFL.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't remember how the conversation, fomented, but when I finally got wind of what she was saying, I was like, whoa, you talking about a woman playing in the NFL? You mean because she's from the continent of Africa. So I'm like, you talking about the football league in the United States?
Yeah.
And I was like, you must be out of your mind. I was like, it was some kind of right. I was like, yo, you put her out there for rights. She might get killed. You might have a cone. I mean, no. You're totally out of touch of reality.
Yeah, it's out of touch of reality. Yeah.
When it comes to, you don't understand how strong these people are.
Right. It's being out of touch.
Yeah.
And more than likely, until a woman shows that she's willing to submit to a man that way, he'll naturally refuse to submit to her the other way. You get what I'm saying? So, for me, I think I don't really have a problem. People try to come off, and I think that's really an escape through the conversation. You're trying to get out of the argument by saying things like, let me just get my thoughts straight. Women's rights, you don't respect women's rights is different than it is now. You know how men used to treat women. I have respect for women. You can't convince me that I don't respect women. The majority of people who support me in Japan or around the world that deal with me are women. I rely very little on other men's support with the few male friends that I have. The majority of how I live my day-to-day life is through women's support, young and old. You know what I'm saying? So when we're talking about, when I'm getting in a conversation with you about submission, it sounds like an escape when you're saying, oh, a woman should just be a slave to the man's, whatever he says and da-da-da. I'm like, why are you getting into this hyperbolic conversation? You know what I mean? Right. Because I have no problem submitting to women. I do it all the time. I listen to them. They give me advice. I follow it. I have to show who I truly am to them so they can actually help me and not try to act like somebody I'm not, which is also a submission to me. But it's because they treat me like a man. They do look at me as a man. I might not be the physically strongest male, but they treat me as physically stronger than them. They need me as much as I need them.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I got it. Yeah. I got it. Okay. And again, I think a lot of the submission, when I think of it, I think that the submission for a woman is more important publicly. You understand? And then
definitely.
You understand. So you can't, because somebody has the lead, and you know what I mean? Whenever you have a group, just by the dynamics of the situation, someone has the lead, someone has to follow in order for it to qualify as a group. Usually there's going to be more people following.
Right.
Okay. So if a man says A, we're going to do A, I'm not saying something life-threatening, or if he's wrong and he needs to be corrected. I'm not talking about just let it go, but I'm talking in most cases, it's possible for the woman to wait until you're not in front of other people before you voice, like, wait a minute, maybe B was a better decision.
Right.
Because at the time he's only going to see hey, you're trying to go against me, or it might be egotistical, whatever you want to call it. But the fact that somebody has the lead, that should be chalked up as the burden of being the leader. You have to make a decision on the fly. You're going to make some decisions that aren't going to be right. No one's perfect. And think about how many times you go back in hindsight, and especially if it's not something in public, and you go, oh, that was wrong. I'm glad nobody saw that. Or, I'm glad I didn't say that. But if you have to do something on the cuff. So I think that Japanese women understand, there's different, there's exceptions, but then you don't ever really, how many times do you see a Japanese man and woman outside arguing about something? Right. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, never.
But the fact that both of us are
unless they're both like drunk or something.
Yeah. And then, and a lot of times that might even be more fun than anything else.
Yeah.
But the fact that you and I are both privy to being inside of Japanese people's homes, you can already see, even if you're not a family member, when you enter that home, it's a little bit more equal. It's a little bit different.
Right.
And then even like I said, my father wasn't Japanese, but I remember one of the things that really stuck with me. It took me until I was maybe in junior high school before I figured it out, because I couldn't say anything bad about my mom, like to my friends. Like, you know, not that I was, you know, I ain't on some Eminem white boy stuff talking about my mom, but you know, you get angry, you have an argument with your mom, and your friend comes over.
Oh, you mean like Eminem talking about killing his mom? And
yeah,
stuff?
I'm not talking about it. And you get
yeah,
like
man,
that
album was nuts.
I'm not. Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I was like, yeah, I didn't really consider me. I'm like, that ain't hip hop. Anyway, it's another story. But then I remember my friend, you know, I couldn't even like get angry. I can't believe she won't let me do this, and they would stop me. Hey, don't talk about your mom like that, you know. And I thought it was something that was, you know, on some ethics issue or something like that. But that's not what it was. And is because my mother always showed this motherly face. This, you know, we call it tatamai. When my friends were around, and I didn't understand that concept. It's kind of like just being phony, being two-faced. My mother calls it being two-faced. But it's Japanese culture. And when the people from outside, you have an outside face. Because to me, she was really critical. You know, I mean, she wasn't she was a great mother, and I love her and everything like that. But I mean, you know, she was a person, and she was my mother. She wasn't there to be my friend. You know, so I know the critical side of her, and it took me years before I realized that, oh, she doesn't do this in front of other people. She only does this when it's just our family members. So I remember telling my sister, I was like, yeah, if you ever have to, you know, if mom is mad at you and you need something from the house, I would tell her, I would always bring my friend with me. And some of my friends would, I don't want to go. Like, listen, I got to go in here and get some money, or I have to go in here and get something. If I go in without you, I'm not going to come back out if I go by myself. But if you go with me, she's not going to let off on me, and I can just hurt me, get it, and walk out with you. So you just come in, start talking to my mom, and my mom will be trying to get my attention. Oh, yeah, okay. And I just walk out with her being friendly. And she never caught on that I knew. But yeah, you know, there's a submission, you know, but when
there's a
submission,
there,
I was definitely submitted to her, and definitely my father, you know.
Would you agree to this if I said a woman's public emasculation of a man could be likened to a man's physical, like when he beats a woman, like a physical violence on a man on a woman could equal the same on a physical front, on the social front, a woman emasculating you in front of a group of people.
Yeah, that's the way she abuses. The way she abuses. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
The number one way to abuse her man. Yep, and the number one way for a man to abuse a woman is to physically do some violence, or even threaten to do it. Yeah,
even threaten. Yeah, in a balanced relationship, if you observe two people who, in general, are very balanced people, right? Spiritually, whatever you want to call it, they're just balanced to you. They're always cool. And then just one day, the man tells you, I smacked my woman, smacked her across the face. And then you say to him, what did she do? Right? What did she do? I would think a Western, maybe majority, not all Western women, but a lot of more Western women than let's just say Asian and definitely Japanese women wouldn't think, if you said, what did she do, is a toxic masculine thing to say. See, because a Western woman, I can feel what they would think if you said, well, what did she do? Like, well, how do you know he didn't do something? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, I've observed them for so long. They're both balanced. He doesn't seem to be the type who does hit a woman. So it must have been something. It must have been something, because I don't warrant violence, but sometimes it might need to happen. Sometimes you might need to smack the shit out of her.
Violence is a reality of life.
That sounds very, I guess, toxic masculinity. You know, maybe sometimes you might need to smack a bitch, kind of talk. And I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm like, if you feel like she's acting like a bitch and it's your woman, and you don't do it often, it must have been a reason. Oppositely, if a woman is emasculating you publicly, you might need that shit. She especially if you're both balanced. I don't know what it would warrant, but if I thought she was a cool girl and all of a sudden she did this, I'm like, what did you do? I don't think either one of them is a good thing. But if it was a balanced couple and the woman was my friend, and then I heard she publicly emasculated me, I'd be like, well, what the hell did the man do then?
Okay, yeah.
Because I'm like,
yeah.
cause she cool. So it must have been something, and that's the only way she could get it off.
Yeah, to push her buttons like that. Yeah,
push her buttons. So I give like that's equal to me. That's equal rights to me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Is it so wrong to say that?
Yeah, well, you're not going to get any argument, no argument forthcoming from me. This would be something good to bounce off of some women. And
yeah, we might do that this weekend, huh?
Yeah, this weekend. Hopefully, I'm trying to make a trip over to Osaka.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we're going to be able to put that together and get some female perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds good. I want to link this back a little bit to the article that I wrote. It's called I think it's Do Japanese Women Have Rights? It's a Nippon series. I don't know. I don't necessarily need to share it, but I go back into the history because I want to make, or I try to make a dividing line between, in this case, Japanese women and Western women, kind of like what we're doing here. And really the real dividing line is Western women from every other woman around the world. And why is that? Well, whenever I do this, we always have to remember that the system of racism, white supremacy, they are the ones who say that white people are separate. They say they make it to be some kind of elite thing, but whether it's elite or not, you're saying that you're separate from everyone else because everyone else is supposed to be submitted or in submission to you, or you know what I mean, or subject. They're your subjects, right? So that means you're saying you're different. So when I flip it and do that, I don't know why people get upset. I'm like, they're the ones that pull my coattail that they're a separate group. You know what I'm saying? So having said that, if you just go back into the history of Europe, their history is different from everywhere else. I'm just going to stick with Japan because I know more about Japan. But even if you look at ancient Egypt and everything, you always see an intermixing of the female and male energy in the gods and the goddesses. There's never a god without a goddess. You know what I mean? There's always a balance. And you can see that's why, I made sure the male energy and the female energy join. Okay. And that's what all of the ancient pantheons express that I'm aware of. And I'm not trying to say I've studied all of them or I'm aware of all of them. But if you look at in Japan, until really Buddhism and of course Western Christianity came into the picture, really Buddhism and Confucianism, if you just look at the Shinto principles, the woman not only is equal, you might even say the woman is running things. I mean, it starts with
right.
Amaterasu, you know what I mean? Like
Amaterasu, yeah.
And it goes down from there. So it's a totally different situations. And I'm gonna say this and throw it over to you. Especially when you go into like the Heian era, not only were women like, again, equal, they were like courtesans, they were writers. They did like the majority of the well, not necessarily all of literature, but when it comes to romance or anything that has to do with everyday life of the people, there were, according to everything I've read, there were more women writers or authors than men. And if you juxtapose that to Europe, I mean, like Genji Monogatari,
Genji no Monogatari,
the Tales of Genji, I think.
Right.
A lot of people have heard of that who have no affiliation with Japan. Where is the European, the Western woman writer, not only of that time, but even up until now, who we can put on her level? Can you name a woman writer? A white woman writer?
I can't even, yeah.
Right, and I think if I really pressed myself, I could find someone, but... Right. Yeah, I don't really know any. I know a lot of white male writers, the Stephen King.
Especially now, right? There was a woman I was reading. Actually, I forgot her name now. Western from the States. She's a writer, but in any case, yeah,
that's
you're right.
Her name. I forgot her name. I forgot her name. We can call this lady from hundreds of years ago. You know what I mean? She's written her books are monumental. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you know, we can't compare the Japanese and women's lib. That is essentially a Western concept. And shout out to what's the goddess's name? Sherazad Ali.
Most cultures have a mother goddess pantheon that defines their actual culture, right? I mean, Japan's before Buddhism, Shinto was, you know, the mother goddess Amaterasu. Africa, Anansi's grandmother is like the world creator. So, you know, the whole imbalance